Welcome back, everybody, to Two Deans and No Waiting. My name is Dean. As you can see, the other Dean is not here. He's away at day camp. But here, replacing Dean and filling in for Dean is my good friend Rick, who's been on the show before. And I'm so privileged and honored to have to the right of me this beautiful lady. Her name is Stacy. I don't want to butcher your last name.
Not gonna try it.
Ogrenzik.
Yeah.
Ogrenzik. Okay, I'm Greek, so that's hard. That's Polish, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I tried. But as I said last time on the show, Stacy and her husband, she's going to talk more about what happened to him. I guess he was euthanized by the system in the protocol. And I guess you have something on YouTube called Ryan's Fight, right?
Ryan's Fight for Truth. Yep.
Okay. And if you'd like to start and just tell us exactly what happened.
So my husband, who is my high school sweetheart, been together since we were 15. He went into Beaumont Hospital, which is now called Corewell Health. They were transitioning then, in Dearborn, Michigan. And he went in with just a mild chest infection. He thought he would go and get treatment early, get on some steroids and oxygen, because he knew me as an asthmatic, that's what they would do for me if I went into the hospital with breathing issues. So his thought was, okay, I'll go in and get some early treatment, and then on Monday we'll start the drugs that we were given, which was a Z-Pack, which was Ivermectin.
Those usually work.
Yes. Yeah. So we were picking those up on Monday. The only thing we had was the Z-Pack started, and we were picking up the Ivermectin that Monday is what the plan was. So he thought he would just go get a jump start, but catch it early while this chest infection was starting, and then be sent home, because he was already, he got sick around November 10th of 2021, and he didn't go into the hospital till November 21st. So he was well past the antiviral phase.
Right.
Everything was going into infections and inflammation. Mm-hmm. But the hospital pushed the protocol for COVID. Right. I told him, we knew not to go in with Remdesivir. He knew not to take it.
Right.
He knew not to go on a ventilator. He was actually a health and life insurance agent. He was an independent agent, so he sold for several companies. And he's seen the payout from CMS.gov that was actually giving bonuses with the use of Remdesivir to the hospitals.
Right.
They would actually give an additional 20% bonus on top of the entire medical bill to use that drug over other things, and he knew that the fatality rate was starting to become really high. So he told them, no, I'm not getting those drugs. I don't consent to it. I said that, and they sedated him and gave it to him anyway.
Now, that's a lawsuit in a handbasket there. You would think, right, because he's not giving his consent.
Right.
Now, another thing which I want to talk about, and I've talked about on our show, that, the government basically gave hospitals a license to kill.
Yes.
Because for every person who died from the virus, they got like $20,000-$30,000.
I would rephrase that. I would more or less say the bureaucrats.
Well, of course.
Are the ones that are controlling the government to do that,
of course,
push their agenda. Big pharma.
Yeah, of course. And they are the government because they control the government.
Absolutely.
They're the ones that write the laws.
Yes.
But the point I'm trying to make is that you're giving these institutions a license to kill, because now not only they writing him up for he died of corona, that's $30,000. You get into a car accident and they were like, you went in there and died from a gunshot.
Mm-hmm.
And they were writing it up as a COVID death.
It's horrible. Just the protocol and the money, like you said. But go ahead.
Yeah, we didn't even know that they had given Remdesivir against consent until I had to trick the hospital into telling me. They had sedated him. He told me he woke with an IV, and so they actually had sedated him that much so he slept through an IV being done. And by the time we found out what it was, I had to trick the nurse into telling me. So they kept telling me that his kidneys were showing signs of distress. Well, we knew that remdesivir
That's right, shuts down your
usually
organs.
goes after your kidneys, your heart, and your liver. So I started to ask them, like, well, why is he all of a sudden having kidney issues? We didn't come in with any kidney issues. And, oh, well, that just happens sometimes. I'm like, was he given remdesivir? Oh, we don't have his chart in front of us to let you know. You'll have to wait and talk to a doctor. And they kept giving me the runaround for days.
Right. They know.
As they
bullshit.
with their little computer in front of them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing, right?
I think someone had told
They're
them not to
following
tell
the
them.
AI program.
Of course.
So when I called on a weekend, I got a different nurse that I never spoke to. So I kind of just tricked her into telling me by saying, hey, I heard about this drug called Remdesivir or something on that order. I said, I heard it's supposed to treat COVID. Is there any chance my husband can get that drug, or maybe he's already been given it? And she goes, oh, let me look in his chart. Oh, he was given that as soon as he came in.
Oh, wow. Right. Oh, we don't know what he's, bullshit.
Yeah. And it took 9 days to put him in 6% kidney function.
So
do you know how many doses they gave him?
5 doses.
They give him 5 doses of the
5 is the standard. Most people will get 5. They give them 2 on day 1, and then they space out the others. But for some patients out there, we were given 10 doses.
Those are the real healthy people. I'm assuming the older you are, they'll give you 2 or 3 and you're done. So yeah.
The people that were given 10 usually didn't survive very long.
Right. And that was probably like unusual.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of money they're making off this. And that's what it's about too. I mean, not only are they euthanizing, and you know about the eugenics program.
Yeah.
And how, they're just killing people. They're, like I told Dean, man, hey, I said, there should be a new Nuremberg trial. And here, case in point, because they should be held accountable for what they're doing, and not just your husband.
Yeah.
I know 2 people we know who were euthanized, and I'm sure it's either the ventilator, remdesivir, but what Tony was telling me, and now that you're here, and I was talking to him earlier about it, apparently they were giving him other stuff too. This is what surprises me. Listen to this.
Well, they did end up breaking protocol, but we first had the remdesivir, then they pushed for a ventilator, and the sad part with the ventilator was that I don't know if it's me making it short or not. I can hear static.
Maybe it's a CDC.
Yeah, to silence me. But yeah, they put him on a respirator when his oxygen was in the 90s all day. I had a doctor call me in the early morning, around 2 a.m. was usually the time when they started making phone calls. They called me at 2 a.m. And they said, hey, it was like 2 or 3 a.m. They said, hey, we want you to try to convince your husband to go on a respirator and a ventilator. And I said, well, why would I do that? His oxygen is in the 90s. He's up, he's talking, he's not even wearing a face mask half the time. And they're like, well, like, he needs to give his body rest, so you need to convince him to do that. So I said I would not do that. And I panicked. I told Ryan, I said, hey, this doctor called me at this hour. They're trying to get me to convince you to go on a vent. He says, why would they do that? That doesn't make sense. He goes, they're talking about putting me in a step-down unit and saying that I'm like closer to coming home. He goes, so there's no reason for a vent. You must have heard him wrong. Well, then later on during the same day, the same doctor called me back and again pressed it one more time. And his words to me was, ma'am, to be honest with you, we told your husband that we are going to vent him with or without his consent. And all I said was, that's illegal. And he slammed the phone down on me.
God bless America.
Because once you
that's ridiculous.
They don't consent.
Oh, they have in his medical records that Ryan refused the ventilator intubation. Then they even put patient is comfortable, alert, talking. And yet they vented.
That's
$39,000 they got for doing that.
Oh, of course. That's so scary. And I just don't trust the medical industry, and hence why you're here. And I'm so glad you're here to voice your opinion and to bring awareness to people that you gotta make sure, especially if you have I have an older parent, and she never got sick, she never got vaccinated. Just the flu, stuff you can fight, right? Mm-hmm. But it's so scary. I mean, I've been cynical for a long time, but that really made me scared. That time frame, because like I said, I knew other people that have died because of the protocol, And from that time frame, from like 2020 to 2023, I was like, man, I really stocked up on vitamin C, zinc, because I did not want to go to the hospital.
Oh yeah, they it became like a mission to try to find like a different doctor to break that protocol, because I kept saying we don't want it, we don't consent to this. I've never been in a situation where you couldn't refuse care.
Right.
It was just beyond, it was the most absurd thing I've ever seen. And so then we had, they tried to bring in a doctor that they thought would help us. And his words to me, he goes, I would love to give your husband ivermectin. I think it would help him a lot. He said, however, due to the politics controlling the healthcare system, my hands are tied and I have to think of my livelihood and my paycheck first. And he said that right to me.
You know,
so money is more important than taking care of.
Of course, of course.
People need to understand that. A lot of people don't grasp that concept that the medical industry is not for you. It's for the money.
Exactly.
It's for their pocket. It's not for you.
Right.
The sicker you are, the more money.
Oh, of course. That's why
the bottom line.
In this country we use more medication than any other country in the world. I've been blessed that I'm Greek American, so I've gone over to Europe and I see that they're healthier. Mm-hmm. And anybody that's gone abroad comes back and like, what is wrong here? I guess you become immune to this. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I'm so glad you're here to bring like awareness to. And I think more people are awake today than they were post.
Yes.
The shutdown, the pandemic.
The COVID thing woke a lot of people.
But you know what? I think it's...
And more of everybody coming out with their stories and things like
that. And it wasn't somebody too long ago we know who told us they took their mother to the hospital and his family warned him, hey, remdesivir, ventilator, stay away. And now I think they're backing off. Yeah. Whereas that time frame... They weren't.
It was total protocol for it.
Now I think it's kind of changing. I'm hoping.
A little bit.
At least,
That's a little bit.
At least it was
still
for
doing
him.
it. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Oh, I'm sure they're euthanizing people all the time. Well, especially the old folks' homes.
Yeah. Well, what you got to be really careful for is the very first thing is they're going to try to give you sedatives, saying they're going to calm your heart rate or make you less anxious. Those sedatives will suppress your oxygen and make it harder for you to breathe.
So that's what they were doing.
They were setting him up for failure.
They were setting him up for failure. Yeah. And they were giving him what Tony said. I thought they were giving him some kind of antidepressants or something.
They were. They had him on Xanax and Presidex right together.
To basically
For what reason?
They say it would help him breathe easier.
So it did just the opposite.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So like she said, they set him up for failure. Oh, look, now we got to put him on a respirator.
Yeah.
Ching, more money.
And my husband was never on those things, so he didn't know. He had no idea. And even when, I picture him fighting for his life when they tried to vent him. Because once I was able to get into his room, only after he was vented, then they would let me up there 12 hours a day. They even had in his medical records, patient viewed from window by doctor, constantly. Patient viewed by window. Guess what? There was no window. There was no window on his door. The only window was to the outside. So the doctor's scaling the outside wall 4 floors up to take a look at him. Sure. So that's what they were, you could tell it was a generic response, a copy and paste that they must share it throughout all hospitals. Right. And so no one's even paying attention to him. Yeah. And they even had, Ryan had a level 4 bed sore that he developed all the way down to his bone.
How long was he at the hospital for?
Almost 2 months.
So it's not, they weren't even.
They never brought out wound care, not even once. Nope. They knew of it. They documented it was there, and then that.
But they didn't care about that.
Nope, because it's not part of protocol.
Right. They could have had a ticking time bomb underneath his pillow, and it was not part of protocol. I'm not going to get that.
And that level of bed sore could cause death in itself because you get sepsis and everything.
Right.
Else. Yeah.
They didn't give a shit.
Nope, they did not. Even when he had internal bleeding going on, and that was because of the respirator was causing problems in his lungs. They didn't want to check the source of the bleeding. They just kind of nug their shoulders, give him blood transfusion. Give him extra blood. That's it. Call it a day.
No.
Hoping and wishing he would die quicker so they can collect their money.
Exactly.
I think they probably want. Oh yeah, I think they did. Because we had some weird things happen. Like once I got there to him, one thing was that he started to open up. He opened up his eyes for me one day there. And he raised his eyebrows up for me. And when I asked him if I could ask him some questions, if he could raise his eyebrows up for yes and down for no, and he did. He felt his vent to his tongue, and then he shook his head in angry no, trying to let me know that he didn't consent to that. And I said, Ryan, I love you, and I'm here for you, and I'm fighting for you. And he raised his eyebrows up, like kind of saying it back.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And then when the nurse heard me say, I'm going to ask you some questions, can you raise your eyebrows up for yes and down for no? She went from leaving his room to coming back. And she's like, let me make him more comfortable. And she upped his sedation. Took seconds to knock him out. I thought I could come back and try that again, but they never let him wake back up.
And that was it.
They didn't want him speaking. Yeah. And when, after I had told off that doctor who told me he had to think of his own livelihood first, I had told him off, and I told him, this Christmas when you're with your family, I want you to listen to me, or think of me here beside my husband, begging you, a doctor who took an oath to do no harm, to put my husband's life above your damn paycheck. Yeah. And I said, so when this goes to court, and I will fight till the day it does, I said, when you're on the stand, do you think the doctor's going to have your back, or are they going to think of their own livelihoods and paychecks first?
They're going to throw him under the bus.
Oh, absolutely.
Just now, before you ask any question, I want to ask her a question about: are you pending another lawsuit? Are you getting another lawyer? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about too much on where this
right,
is going.
of course.
Yeah, we're getting into some
Makes sense.
Very serious, very big things coming up.
Good, that's good. And you know what?
Ain't over.
and you can use our platform to voice your opinion, to get it out there. Like I said, I was against this from day one. I've been cynical for a long time, and we seen this coming like a 100-mile train, man. We knew right away. And Tony and I, our executive producer, talked about the things that are going to happen after this. Not only the protocol, but the shots. Yeah. And I know your story doesn't have to do with the shots, but I mean, it's kind of branched. Yeah. It kind of does. Yeah. But that's also part of depopulation, and it's all tied together, like Rick said. And it's just crazy how this all worked out. And I call him Dr. Fraudchi. I think he should be locked up. Yeah. And there should be trials, and there should be people held accountable. And I hope you win. I really do. Because I'll tell you what, that would be a big win. Yeah. Yeah. It would open a lot of doors for a lot of people. Yes. I think what people need to really be fighting for is something to change the PrEP Act. So the PrEP Act was put in place during 9/11. So if there's ever any state of emergency, global emergency, it gives liability protection to the doctors. So that's where the saying, when you called attorneys, they said doctors have a license to kill for profit and we can't touch it. Of course. And 9/11 was just isn't that funny how they play chess? They're like 20 years ahead of us. Oh, yeah. Well, they know exactly what they do. And then when they set up 9/11, it was an inside job. So Operation Northwoods, and how, the CIA talked about hijacking planes and crashing them into buildings to blame countries they want to go to war with, to raise the military budget. All the things they've done, those draconian laws, they just changed everything. And even the medical industry. Yeah. It trickled down to even the medical industry. Yeah,
sure did.
That's insanity.
Now, they say the PrEP Act doesn't cover intent to do harm, and it doesn't cover fraud.
Oh, what was that called again?
The PrEP Act.
Okay, you know what? I thought I knew a lot, but this is something new.
Even regular attorneys, like regular
what's it
injury
called?
attorneys, don't even know
it down for me because I went to Ecorse Public Schools.
Yeah.
I got it.
It's called the PrEP Act.
Okay, the PrEP Act. Yeah, right. He's writing it down. Yeah, he looks like a Fed writing down.
That is something we need to push for change. They also need to change statute of limitations, because there's a lot of people that never had a chance at justice because attorneys were scared. This was unknown territory. They were scared to put to fight these, because just like how the FDA and Lara went after doctors and nurses who were speaking out and fighting it, they also threatened attorneys. Same thing.
If you watch the last show, I went after the FDA.
Nice.
They gotta go.
Oh yeah.
Because like I said, they're private.
Yeah.
And I mean this ran. Right, exactly. And what good are they? And what good are they're basically a slush fund, right? Just to make money for bureaucrats.
Well, even just the whole time when my husband was there, they were pushing that whole, you're not a horse, you're not a cow, stop it, don't take ivermectin, making it sound like ivermectin was only for veterinarian use.
I know Nobel Peace Prize when it first came out. The doctor that
And it's an
Who was it, right?
anti-inflammatory drug.
I forget the doctor's name. But,
Okay.
but he won a
Okay.
Nobel Peace
Yeah.
Prize.
That's good for
Yeah.
ivermectin.
It
Now,
is.
I know a doctor. I told Tony, I got my ears cleaned out a few months ago. And I went to urgent care, and there was a doctor, started talking to him. He's Palestinian. And, oh, you're Greek, whatever, had that Mediterranean thing going on. And then we started talking about the ivermectin.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I was prescribing people ivermectin, and they called him
Mm-hmm.
on the phone and strong-armed him
Yeah.
and said, look,
Yeah.
we're going to shut you down, and we're not going to give you any more ivermectin if you are giving this to people that are sick.
Yeah.
So they basically threatened him.
Things
Yeah.
have changed. Now you can order it.
This was
online.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, you can.
This
You got
was-
home care kits.
this was a few years ago.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
I still want to get him on here, and he can explain his side of the story. But this stuff is real.
Yeah,
This
it's
isn't
so
conspiracy
real.
theory. This is actual an agenda. This is real. You know, I wish people that are listening would really wake up and pay attention that the man behind the curtain, there's a real man behind the curtain, and there's always an agenda.
The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
But no, that's you know, and I didn't know, but that's interesting. Thank you for telling me that, because I know a lot about 9/11 and
Yeah.
why it happened and who's responsible. And then I know they took advantage of the situation. They changed the laws. I didn't know that it trickled all the way down to the medical industry. You're saying.
Yep. It
That's
made them
insane.
feel untouchable. The doctors literally felt untouchable
Wow.
to do harm. So if they ever thought that there was an error that they've done, literally they could slap the word COVID on it, and they didn't even have to have a positive COVID test. You could diagnose you as COVID just off your symptoms.
Yeah,
Gosh,
I
you
know they
think
were
I have
doing that.
COVID every day because I have allergies and asthma. I'm always
Right.
like sniffing and, and can't breathe. So
Exactly, and a lot of people don't. You know, I know who you know, a guy by the name of, gosh, what the heck is his name? Oh my God, he was always on InfoWars. He says that there was no pandemic. It was just bullshit. Everybody just had the flu.
yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of controversy.
David
over
Icke.
that.
David Icke.
David Icke.
Yeah.
When this came out, I seen him on InfoWars
I
5 years
picked
ago.
up- As soon as you said it, I pictured who it was. with
I'm
the
surprised
white hair,
you out of all
I'm going-
people,
I'm
and
going, what's his
maybe
name? Yeah,
maybe
David Icke,
Tony would know,
yeah.
but David Icke said
Yeah.
5 years ago, there is no virus that's killing people. It's just the flu.
Yeah.
And now I believe it even more because your story.
Yeah, I would say it's probably a virus out
The
there
flu.
for sure, and it might have been slightly enhanced. But the thing was that
Right,
medical
okay.
people were not doing their normal. Well, it's funny because they say they're following their standard of care, but it was anything but that. So they would take what they knew how to treat pneumonia and say, "We're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
We got to do this instead." Oh, you have a cardiac problem. We were going to withhold your heart meds until you agree to remdesivir. Nothing was normal as what it was before. So they're letting people die. They're
Right.
letting people die of a virus, but they weren't treating that virus. And they're just like what my husband was on once he was there. I got in there one day and I started to really pay attention to what was on his IV and what drugs they were giving him daily. And, they kept him on paralytics so he wouldn't be able to pull out his own vent. They kept him on
Dated.
sedated.
Right, so he didn't know what the hell was going on.
They kept him on heavy doses of fentanyl, midazolam.
Fentanyl?
They had him on blood pressure meds, kidney dialysis.
Anything they
Fentanyl
could
alone
get
would kill
to
you.
shut his kidneys.
Low
and
dose
his-
steroid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so when I started looking at this, I'm like, what is he on that's going to help him get better? The nurse looked at me and said, well, nothing, but it's all we're allowed to give him. And I was like, so we're going to let a healthy 41-year-old man just die? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
She goes, it's not right, I know, but if I fight for him, I'll lose my job. Mind blown.
Hey,
I mean-
How
and-
do you get up and go to work and
Yeah.
and treat somebody? I could not
Yeah.
do that.
Right.
They act like they were
I-
in a career to save lives. I mean,
and,
crazy.
I
and
fought tooth and nail when I was going through this with my dad, and during the time period that you were talking about,
Yeah.
going to the VA hospital and getting him treated, and I would fight tooth and nail with them people.
Yeah.
I did. They hated seeing me. They hated seeing me.
well,
I'm
hope
sure
you
they.
do.
I'm sure
Yeah.
they.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
sure
could
they-
tell I was being talked
yeah.
about in there, for sure.
Oh, for sure. See, you know, that's
I even
a
though
that's a
I'm
good
sinner.
thing.
And I tried to be calm and nice and respectful to the matter, but after a while, it becomes frustrating.
Yeah. And I what was I going to say? There was something else too I was going to tell you is, but when I got done talking to that, yelling at that doctor who told me off. So the next day, this is how bad the situation is. And this is when I knew I was in really bad trouble. So a hospital administrator came and got me with a police officer, took me into a back room down the hall.
Did they beat you up to rubber hose out?
You know, I wasn't quite sure where this was going to go. I stayed really quiet because I was like, all right, well, you know, it could be nothing, but let me just see what they're doing. And I thought, well, maybe they're bringing in like a criminal patient and they needed to move me for safety. And I was like thinking in my head, what could this possibly be? Because I know they've shut doors and things when they've had things going on in the hospital with unruly patients. So, but they brought me down to the back room, and I'm sitting in there, and the officers across from me, staying really quiet, wouldn't even speak one word. And then the administrator to my left, and she told me, she says, we don't like your attitude in the hospital. And I said, my attitude? And I said, well, what attitude is that?
You're stopping us from making money.
Pretty much. She goes like, you know, we, you had a conversation with one of our doctors yesterday. And I was like, oh, Dr. Sharba. And I said, yeah, I did. And I said, so I told her what the conversation was. And I said, you mean the doctor who told me he had to think of his own livelihood and his own paycheck first over doing what he thought was best for my husband, that doctor? Is that the attitude you're talking about? And then she's like, well, let me tell you how this is going to go. She goes, if you don't stop trying to change the protocol that we have for your husband, like it's my right to, is if you don't stop trying to do that, we are going to use a story that we've seen you going into other patients' rooms, and that's a safety violation.
She's even telling you this. She's writing out the narrative right in front of you.
And she said that will get you thrown out of the hospital until we are done with your husband.
Until we're done killing him.
Okay, so Rick, you hear this? You hear, you don't have control over your own body,
No.
basically.
Nope.
You have no rights.
That's where we were
Where's
messed up.
Jordan Maxwell when you need him?
Yep. 'Cause
Wow.
we thought we would
Unbelievable.
have rights in a U.S. hospital, but we would have fared better in a third world country.
Yeah, I sure would.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just it never ceases to amaze me the stuff that you're saying is just and I knew it. I mean we but you know to have a firsthand account
Yeah.
makes it even more makes my blood boil even more. To sit here and listen to this. That this young person should not have died. And my other question is, how many other, and I do believe David Icke now, right here. And I've always, you know, I was more leaning towards that, yeah. Okay, how many people died from the protocol as opposed from the virus?
Yes.
I bet there was more people that died from the protocol
Absolutely.
as opposed to the virus.
And-
So yeah, there was probably nothing, like you said, they might have, okay, I know that there's bioweapons,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that Dr. Fraudchi was a part of the Wuhan, and how he's a part of, you know, all the chemical biological weapons we have in Fort Detrick, Maryland. We have so many, and I know he's a part of making bioweapons, like AIDS is a bioweapon, Ebola is a bioweapon,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
H1N1, all that. It's a bioweapon. But how much of that is true that really got out? Or was it just the protocol that was killing people?
It was mostly fear driven. Everything was
Yes,
driven by
exactly.
fear. Every single bit of it. I mean, you think about, you know, you had to be fearful of breaking order and losing your license for your job, your career, business, small business being shut down. Then it was fear over
Geez.
take the vaccine or you might die. You're going to kill grandma. Stay home, save lives. Then we also jumped into the fear of like, you know, hey, these doctors, I'm just following orders. Well, nurses think they're covered because they're just obeying orders for the doctors.
Right.
And in Nuremberg trials, that's exactly what the nurses said. We're just following orders.
Following procedure. Right, exactly.
And the doctors were following the hospital administrators. So they're practicing corporate medicine.
Yes,
They're giving up their medical training and they're practicing corporate medicine, and that is crime.
And you know what? You threshed upon something really good here. You know, they asked an Amish person, why isn't anybody getting coronavirus in the Amish communities?
Yeah.
Because we don't have television.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. They just like
programming.
they use fear. They always use fear to control society.
And they say, but fear is the absence of God. They say, so it's the absence of like truth. You're not supposed to have the spirit of fear, but fear, the enemy was so strong in this world, is causing fear, global fear, and everyone was out for themselves. Everyone. So these doctors who took a job to protect lives were now thinking of livelihoods over lives. And that's exactly what was training. And everyone kept saying, well, what would the hospital gain out of that? Well, job security. So the doctor is being told, if you don't listen to what we're telling you to do, and we're only trusting the CDC and the NIH, so that's how they protect themselves,
Right.
They would say, okay, well, we're telling you that, you know, this is what you need to do and follow, but the doctors have their, not just their jobs over their head, but knowing that the licensing department is going to go and say, you're an anti-vaxxer, you're a conspirator, you're the problem.
You're a terrorist.
Yep. And then now they can't get work anywhere.
And exactly,
happened a lot.
that's exactly what the Nazis said. We were following orders. The same thing. I swear. It's like, yeah, we do need.
2.0.
They should be held accountable. And it just really just irritates me. And this is how the media plays into all that. They were showing them as heroes.
Yes.
Oh, look at the doctors and the nurses. No, not at all. It's the polar opposite.
most
Sorry, you're not.
most disgusting thing was seeing their TikTok videos.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Right.
Dancing around and just, come on, are you serious?
Unreal. And just it just.
That was very
blows my blood.
unprofessional.
Oh,
Very
Yeah, it's like,
distasteful and unprofessional.
Now, was that purposely driven? Did they do that on purpose? I mean,
to
seriously.
It was like
throw that in
a
their face.
mockery.
Yeah,
almost
is
of
that
the
was
Lord.
that something that they were told to do? I mean, who
you know,
knows?
I,
just,
Rick, I think you're right. It was mockery.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It was done on purpose.
And it was
They took-
always the arrogant nurses that stayed on to obey orders. And
Oh, yeah.
those are the ones that are like, mask up over your
Yeah.
nose.
Oh,
But
yeah.
we,
What happened to the mask now? Why don't we mask up anymore?
oh, and there was no PPE when I was there. No one was wearing PPE when I was with my husband. Most of the time, nurses came in with their mask around their chin,
Mhm.
which then allowed me to do that too, so then I could breathe. I've been there with him, but they would their medical report says constantly we didn't go. We only viewed Ryan from the window he didn't have, to save PPE. There was no PPE. No one ever wore PPE. When I was in there, no one ever wore that. So more lies, copy paste. You know, that for record.
Of course, you know, there's no data showing that that's going to protect you from anything.
No,
Yeah.
for
No.
sure.
Show
Well,
me- show me the proof.
Fossey wrote a paper on the Spanish flu talking about what the masks were actually probably part of the pandemic from sucking in the bacteria into
Yeah.
your lungs.
So they made it worse. Exactly what I wanted to
forced
say.
you to try
Well,
to
that's
make
what
it
my husband went
worse.
to the hospital with, was a
Yeah.
bacterial lung infection, and he wore his mask a lot while working because he worked with elderly that were very scared because, again, fear drove
Fear.
everything. So he wore the mask to make them feel better. And then, yeah, he got bacterial pneumonia, and they gave him an antiviral drug for his bacterial infection because that's protocol.
He should have never died. And,
No.
and everything they did from the shutdown, everything they told you made it worse.
Yeah.
And like you said, and you talked about how they destroyed small business,
Oh, yeah.
and who was only allowed to stay open?
Yep.
The big companies. Small business, not at all.
Demolished.
Shut it down.
Purposely driven.
Right, exactly. Just order out to eat, get your McDonald's, go home. You can't go to the gym. That's the exact opposite. You need sunlight,
Yeah.
you know, you need fresh air. Everything they told you was the polar opposite.
Yeah.
So why am I watching this program or watching a show, why am I going to ever listen to the medical industry?
Yeah. You gotta be your own advocate for sure.
Exactly.
For sure.
And they took the cold numbers, people having colds and stuff like that, and just reversed it over into COVID.
Wait,
That's all they did. The
Right,
flu.
exactly.
That's all
Oh,
they did.
right. Oh, it's COVID.
Yeah, it's COVID.
I
Everything's
met a
COVID.
person the other day who works at a long-term care facility for elderly mostly, and she's close with the owner, and the owner was actually getting contacted by one of those three-letter agencies. They were contacting and saying that they were investigating them because they didn't have enough COVID on the death certificates. She refused to put COVID if it was pneumonia or cancer or heart attack, whatever, and they were actually contacting her to say, you need to change this. It needs to be a COVID death.
Now,
Yeah.
Now-
Investigated her for 2 months because she didn't have enough COVID deaths on her.
what's the name of the doctor who was responsible for this?
For my husband,
Yeah.
we have a few of them. There's
Okay, name the one you said earlier. The one
Well,
who
there's
treated you like a terrorist.
there's Dr. Sharba, the one.
Okay.
He couldn't do it.
Dr. Sharba's my asshole of the week.
Yeah.
I have asshole.
They
of the
said
week.
he was the Patriot doctor. That would probably help me too.
He's Patriot, yeah. Hey, where's Dean at? If Dean's gonna let Doctor, what's his name?
Sharba.
Dr. Sharba, I'm sorry, is my asshole of the week. I mean, you just said I usually have this thing called asshole of the week.
Yeah.
And if you-
Well, there might be some bigger
yeah,
ones even than him.
okay, because this whole show today is based on asshole of the week. So I'm not going to do one because you've done it the whole 30 minutes you've been
Yeah.
here, and it's just
He could take his Patriot card and.
yeah, right. I mean,
Disgusting.
it's just but it's scary. It's scary how they're turning everything against us, and you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They're turning
Absolutely.
everything against us.
Now, if people want to know the power of ivermectin. So while the FDA actually has on their website that they cannot tell a doctor how to prescribe medicine, they even says that a doctor can use off-label, non-FDA approved drugs. Right on their website it says that. So this whole thing of scaring these doctors that you couldn't prescribe ivermectin was like absurd. I actually called the patient relations and I said, at the hospital, and I said, her name is Rhonda Jordan. I talked to her and I said, hey, is there anything on this hospital policy that says a doctor can't prescribe ivermectin if they think it's going to work, or even a proper dose steroid for my husband? She laughed. Oh no, there ain't nothing in there about that. And I said, well, they're scared they'll lose their jobs if they do that. You going to tell me their jobs are protected? Oh, she's like, they ain't going to lose their jobs. And she laughs about it and says, no, they're fine. And I said, okay, well then I'm going to have them call you. They can verify it. Took her number. So we I was praying every day over my husband for a right doctor to come in and do the right thing. I was stopping doctors in the halls at the hospital. Didn't even care if they were a cardiologist or whatever, just stopping people. Who do you know? Who can help me?
Like
Start talking to people. I mean, that's what I spent my days doing. And then finally, a doctor who worked in their ethics department, he also teaches college students and all the new ones coming through. He came in, he was a critical care team surgeon over there. And he even... he stepped up to the plate. He came up to me and he said, you know what? He goes, I'm going to check out the hospital policy. I don't think there's anything in there. He goes, I've been following Dr. Peter Corey, Dr. Paul Merrick. I've been seeing all those things with this ivermectin. I like what I'm seeing. And he goes, I want to try it. And he goes,
he didn't even know about it.
No. And like he told me, if you find me some backup, I just want to know that I'm not alone in this. So I looked at him and I said, well, do your research on the policy. Make sure your job's okay. And I said, then I will find you your backup. I will find you your courage, because I believe courage is contagious, and it just starts with one.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a domino effect, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
once one steps up, the whole step up.
And I was driven. I just let God put everyone.
That's
in front
good.
of me.
That's
I
good,
just kept
because I see you're still driven, and
Uh-huh.
don't give up Ryan's fight. I believe in you, and I hope something good comes out. And definitely, if something good comes out, I want you to come back.
Oh yeah,
Because,
I definitely would do that.
Yeah, definitely. And let me ask you a question. How many other shows have you been on? Because Tony and I talked. We don't know exactly.
Like 45 or so.
45. Like which ones?
Yeah.
Like TV.
Both. I've done radio. I've done
Your
I've been documentaries. There's a documentary by director Mickey Willis that's going to come out called Bad Medicine. I'm not sure if he's going to spell it as medicine, like how it's spelt, or Medisin. I've seen it both ways, so I'm not quite sure. But it's going to be Bad Medicine. If you go to Bad Medicine, spelled like medicine, badmedicinemovie.org, you can look on his website, and he has a trailer on there,
Right.
3 trailers. It starts about 3 minutes in, and he shows you'll see me on there, and they actually had a film crew come here. They filmed at Beaumont in Dearborn. Looking for Rhonda Jordan, looking for Dr. Peters, who stepped up to try to fight for my husband.
Nice.
Okay.
Um,
Right. Good.
Nice.
And then they've had me. I've flown out to Texas. I've been on the high wire with Del Bigtree.
Yeah.
I've spoken public speaking. I've been
Good,
flown
that's
all
great.
over.
So you got some credentials
Yeah.
behind you.
Been next to Dr. Paul Merrick. Spoke next to him.
Okay, good.
That was kind of fun.
Really?
Yeah. Met Dr. Peter McCullough twice. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I think he was on Infowars and Alex Jones.
Yeah, probably.
Well,
yeah.
he's the one
very
that's
outspoken.
behind the new home medical care drugs that you
Yeah.
can purchase.
Yeah. Spike detox.
Yes.
So yeah.
Good.
Yep, see, he's got the spike.
So there's a good movement now.
He's
and
even
that's
he's
good.
even promoting the ivermectin for fentanol for cancer treatment.
Yes.
Things like that.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, and you know that doctor I was talking to at the urgent care I went to, he was prescribing the horse ivermectin.
Yeah.
He said, and you know, they were trying to say that, oh, it's bad. I know people that actually take that.
Mhm.
It doesn't kill you.
Okay.
But I asked him,
Ivermectin.
I've taken both.
Mhm.
I've taken the one you get, and I've taken the other one too. I've tried it before, little small dose.
Yeah,
But he said,
that's
as
the
long as you don't, because
Don't take
it makes sense.
body
A
weight.
horse weighs 2,000
Yeah.
pounds. You're
Right.
not going to take the whole
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
It's your body
Body
weight,
dosage.
and that's exactly what the media, man.
Yeah.
The corporate
They scare
media.
everybody.
Oh, they always do, right? And like I said,
Mockingbird Media.
that's why we're here. That's why we're here. This is grassroots. Everything we do, and it's a kick. It's a kick to there. behind, right? That we're doing this because nobody trusts the media anymore.
Yep. Yep.
Nobody, especially this generation.
Yep.
What
And
about the old generation?
Well, the MK Ultra is finally wearing off, right?
Yeah, the MK Ultra. Right.
well, if
Dr. West.
people want to know that ivermectin does work, I mean, of course, nothing's ever 100% to work for everybody, but I can say for my own husband, the doctor who did step up to give it to him ended up giving him 76 milligrams of ivermectin because they had to up it for his body weight. Now he's so swollen and fluid. I mean, his hands were like that big.
Horrible.
So we gave him 76 milligrams of ivermectin. He finally put him on a proper dose steroid that was made for his body size. For COVID protocol, they put you on a pediatric dose steroid every 12 hours. My inhaler is stronger than what they're
Right,
making.
that's nothing.
And I can do it every 4.
Yeah.
That's nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I just have to warn you. You're probably on the no-fly list now because you're on this show,
I've probably
and
been
you-
on there a long
and
time.
you might get a call from the CDC because
Oh, I welcome that.
I did get a call from the CDC.
No way.
And he was standing right. We're sitting there, and I said, "Look, Tony, the CD." He goes, "You ain't kidding. They called me 3 other times." Yeah, the
Wow.
CDC call, and I keep answering the phone. I speak no English. I no talk to me now. Talk. That might help me actually. I hang up every time, but that was 5 times that they called. Yeah, so you might get a call from the CDC.
They were looking now. That's okay. They'll get an earful.
Rick might get a call from Southfield Sally, but that's about it.
Yeah.
I would lose my number.
So when my husband had gotten that ivermectin, just so people could know, his blood oxygen went from the low 60s to 100% in less than 24 hours. So he was coming off that vent every day more and more. Doctor was so excited. We're like finally making some breakthrough. He thought, okay, we'll keep him on in another 3 or 4 more days, and I think we'll be good. But then just as we went into the holiday weekend, Dr. Hannity Doss, and Dr. James Sundstrom, who is a head of infectious disease, both of them are infectious disease doctors, came in and revoked the order that the doctor had put in place for my husband that was working.
So he was getting better.
Yeah,
And
they
these
revoked
and
it.
these bastards came in there and said,
Yep.
They seen
Yeah.
their bonus going.
"Yeah, exactly, right." I guess
Yeah.
$5 million a year isn't enough.
Yeah.
Greedy too.
They
They got all the money in the world probably too.
They took him off of it, and Dr. Doss put in his medical records that the hospital doesn't allow veterinarian meds. She's an infectious disease doctor, so Beaumont.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Well, of course she knows it is. So either Beaumont is like scraping the bottom of the barrel for infectious disease doctors these days, and she didn't know the difference, and either did their head of infectious disease, which is very alarming, or she's just being an utter smartass, and that would be my guess. But so she put that in there, and she did a hit and run. They signed herself off the case, handed it to James Sundstrom, who never even viewed my husband, never treated my husband before, and kept him off it, again, as a standard of care, because standard of care is about patient rights and doing what's best for the patient, and patients choosing their own doctors, and they weren't even allowing us to do that. Everything was infringing on his rights.
Of course, it's called micromanaging.
Yeah.
They want to micromanage. It's one thing when I go to work and you go to work and they micromanage you. That's one
So
thing. But to
students-
micromanage your own life.
Basically, as soon as you signed the paperwork to get him into the hospital, he became a prisoner.
Yeah. And what his last words to me in the car before he entered, because he knew I was scared about their protocols, he said, "I'm an American. I have rights. They can't give me anything I don't want." And he kissed his fingers and put it on my forehead, and I thought that made sense. And that's where we were wrong, deadly wrong.
So he was in there 2 months.
Almost 2 months, yeah.
Just because of the flu.
Basically. Well, the doctor, so at the end, because we had them take that away, the doctor was desperately trying to get a hold of Dr. Marciano, who was the chief medical officer there. Because before we had the surgeon, who I call the good doctor, I always protect his identity, but the good doctor. And then we had Dr. Peters was the chief of staff. They were both supporting what was being done for my husband.
Oh, wait a minute. The chief of staff. I
Yeah.
would think that the buck would stop with him, right?
You would
He's
think.
the chief of staff, which
Yeah.
shows you there's obviously somebody higher.
Yep. So we thought we were good because the chief of staff was supportive of it, had a fight tooth and nail. I mean, they tried to withhold his meds at the pharmacy. They were withholding it, wanting the administrators to come in and improve it. administrators, so corporate medicine again. We're going to have them come in and say yay or nay to this doctor can give this. And so Dr. Peters had
Total
to call
fascism.
and like threaten them to
Pure.
bring that up. So yeah, I mean,
Pure fascism.
it's so scary. I've
Corporate
never
control
seen nothing like it.
of government is fascism, right?
And it's
crazy.
and so then they ended up the Dr. Peters, the chief of staff, got a plan to make the good doctor be head of the ICU starting that Monday. And we had to get through the weekend. It was a holiday weekend. We couldn't get a hold of the chief medical officer, who is also like a real big league there. I guess he kind of was the president of Beaumont, and also was he was on some kind of chair committee for some other department. So I mean, big league. So they were trying to get a hold of him desperately to put a stop to this, of what because they were overriding his doctor's orders. And he was on vacation because it was going into New Year's Eve and all that, so we
Right.
couldn't get a hold of him.
So it's Christmas time.
So it's almost like they planned that
Well,
intentionally to do it when they did, because they knew we couldn't fight it. So then the chief of staff said, we're going to make this doctor be head of ICU starting Monday. To be his decision what care Ryan gets, because he'll be in charge of the floor. So that was like our last ditch effort to save Ryan from Beaumont, basically. So then we ended up Sunday night, before that Monday morning, somebody put in an order to max him out on fentanyl. They started to give him lethal amounts of fentanyl, upping it like
To
heavy.
euthanize him, to get rid of him.
Yeah, they had to work fast
Kill him.
because that doctor was going to be in charge of his care, and it was going to give him back an
He was going to give him. He was
Yep.
going to get him better,
He was gonna
and
get him
then
better.
right, he could drop a dime on everybody.
I would assume that would be like the hospital director or something like that
And-
gave that type of order.
Yeah, had been someone somewhere did. It's
Yeah.
me. His medical records are 8,000 pages, and we're still learning new stuff. So we it's a little
8,000
over
pages.
8,000, and even then we probably still don't got everything.
I'm pretty sure they borrowed the paper shredders from Enron. I'm sure they're
Call
shredding paper.
Hillary's team.
Yeah.
So to put it in perspective, like what Ryan was given, a death row inmate, when they're executing a death row inmate, they usually put him on like around 10 milligrams of midazolam. It causes the body to kind of shut down and stop moving. It's a short-term paralytic, and it's dangerous drug. It has to be heavily monitored. Like it's low amount. It only takes a little amount to go a long way.
And they gave.
And then they would give him morphine in prison. Well, fentanyl is 100 times more powerful than morphine. So my husband was on fentanyl with midazolam. They were giving my husband over 50 milligrams of midazolam. It'll take 10 to kill you. They gave him 50. They gave him 50 milligrams of midazolam.
They really wanted to kill him.
Yep. And then like a normal range of fentanyl is 100 micrograms every 4 to 6 hours for a patient going under surgery, or a patient going, it's a cancer patient, someone in severe pain.
Right.
My husband's fully sedated. There's probably not much pain, but they gave him over 35 doses in a 24-hour period. And then they gave him 500 micrograms of fentanyl in an hour, then 600 micrograms in an hour, then 775 micrograms in an hour and 4 minutes. And then they called him a COVID death.
Of course, because they got $30,000 for every
is
person that died of that.
insanity.
When
I'm
I
so
got
sorry.
there, they called me, the good doctor called me and told me at 3 a.m, you need to come down to the hospital. I think we're losing Ryan. And I got
No kidding. No
Right.
shit.
And I got down there and I took one look at him from like about 10 to 15 feet away from his door. They were working on him when I got there, trying to prone him. And when which means to put him on his stomach.
Yeah.
And so I'm like on his, I'm like 10, 15 feet away, and I turned to the male nurse next to me and I said, my God, what did they do to him? Why does my husband look like he OD'd?
Because he did.
And he did.
Because they OD'd him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They euthanized him.
Yeah,
They killed him.
Yeah, they didn't want him
They-
as a witness.
No. And I'll tell you, this is
Bunch of gangsters.
Disgusting.
if you're gonna this is the scary part now, and now looking back at like hindsight, but so when I was there, this is before we got the ivermectin. I was actually filing for an emergency hearing with Wayne County Court. I hired Ralph Loringo out of New York, who had high success of making doctors use their home medication of ivermectin. So I hired him, and we went to Wayne County, and I spent like almost 10 grand for an emergency hearing. They told me to keep it on a down low with Beaumont. So while I was doing that, this nurse's aide came in and she said, I want to let you know, she motioned for me to get away from the camera that's in Ryan's room. And I went over to her and she's like, room 17 is suing for their right to use ivermectin, their home medication. And I thought that was odd for her to bring it up then when I was getting ready to go to court. And so I said, oh,
She told you that, like, hey,
yeah, well,
people are.
I thought maybe they were fishing for information from me to see if I was suing. So that was what first went off in my head. So I'm staying quiet, and I said, well, how's that going? She said, well, to be honest, the hospital administrators told us nurses to work to get them out faster. And I said, out faster? What does that mean, out faster? Like dead or alive faster?
Dead.
She looked at me and she just gave me this look, shrugged her shoulders, and you could just read it like she was saying, you know, that dead faster. Gave me chills, you know, goosebumps, hair standing up.
Yeah, right, exactly. How do they go?
Live with
They're making $60, $70 an hour. You know, and then what really bothers me is when the media portrayed them as heroes.
Oh,
No, sorry.
There's no hero.
No, you're not a hero. No, not at all.
Not only the
Bullshit.
doctors, but the administrative people.
Yes.
that work
Oh.
behind the scenes.
Oh, the people at the top, right? All of
Practicing
them.
They
medicine.
need to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
They need
Yes.
for
Oh,
Absolutely.
of course.
Oh, it's
Nuremberg.
coming.
Nuremberg 2.0.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Definitely.
So I think we ended up I didn't know whether she was really trying to scare me, so I went and sue. I wasn't quite sure, so I just kind of brushed it out of my mind. Let me move forward with the hearing. The judge went and talked to me, went and talked to his doctor, said he had to protect the rights of the doctors. Had to do what's best for doctors.
They have rights, but you don't.
But we lost ours apparently. So that didn't go well. Right. Thank goodness though I had a doctor like 2 weeks later step up to do what he couldn't. So then, and I wonder where would he have fought then? Which doctor? There was a doctor saying, yeah, this is Ryan's rights to take it and it's safe and it could help him or not hurt him. It wouldn't do it would either not do something or help him. And the other doctor saying you don't have the right to do that. So judge, which one would you side with then? That was Judge Timothy Kenny, by the way. Timothy Kenny, who retired now. Timothy Kenny.
Of course. So he sided with the administration. He sided with
my husband's blood is on Judge Timothy Kenny's hands.
Okay, he's a
Sure,
conscious
got a
pilot here.
Nice little pocket change.
Oh,
you know,
of
from-
course.
offshore
He's not going to bite the
account.
hand that feeds him. Now, I want to ask you a question. Your husband was in hospital for 2 months. In that duration, they were giving him all that crap.
Oh yeah.
In that time frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was healthy as a horse.
Yeah.
A lot of people would have been done in a month or
They
2
think
weeks.
the reason why they kept adding more and more sedation was because he was a healthy 41-year-old
Exactly.
man. He was on no drugs.
There's no reason why
and it was harder to kill him.
Yeah.
he should have fought this.
Yeah.
He shouldn't. The worst mistake was taking him to the hospital.
It was. Yeah.
It is scary. It is scary what they'll do or what they did at that time frame, I should say. And, you know, I'm sure stuff's going on today still.
And what I told you about room 17 with that nurse giving me that warning. So after Ryan died, the doctor who prescribed Ivermectin for home drugs, he told me, hey, there's this family that has a double funeral, husband and wife that died in Beaumont, same hospital before your husband. You should go and pay your respects and see if you guys can team up in a way.
So she's telling you, hey.
So
right.
I said, okay. So I almost didn't go because I was still planning my husband's funeral. Last minute, I decided to go. So I go there and I'm just kind of sitting in the room and listening to conversations and anxiety. And I happened to hear this woman say, no, we were in room 17. And like a light bulb went off in my head. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's something in my notes about room 17. And I said, can you give me your number and I will call you if I find anything? Because I took daily notes. I also wore a hidden camera and I got footage inside this hospital.
Something with room 17 is killing people.
Yeah.
Quick.
So I went home and I reread it. And she said, the hospital administrators told us nurses to work to get them out faster. And then I was like, oh my gosh. She said them because it was a husband and wife. The woman died 3 days after she came in and told me that. And the husband, they died days apart. It was a husband and wife, both lost their life there. And that's why that nurse came in and told us to get them out faster. It was 2 people. And they literally got them out faster, just like she said, because they were fighting against the protocol. And we were fighting against the protocol. And that administrator warned me, if you don't stop, we'll call you when we're done with your husband. So either it was like, sit down and shut up.
Or we're going to kill you. He's blackmailing you.
There was she was like, just, enjoy what time you have left with your husband and be grateful for that. Or fight us like you have rights to choose.
We're going to kill him
and
quicker.
we'll get you out and kill him and call you when he's in a body bag. That was my option.
If this isn't Nazi Germany, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Where's Dean at where I can yell at him right now? He's in that chair. I just, you know what? I mean, this just makes me so angry that listening to this and these bastards have gotten away with this.
Yes.
And they're so arrogant too when you go into these hospitals too.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just so arrogant. especially that time frame. I
I
remember.
think they're untouchable.
Oh, of
Yeah.
course. Well, look,
Yeah.
they got a whole corrupted system to
To
protect
back
them.
them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it.
So I
get it.
mean, I hope.
They were mad I was speaking out though.
Oh, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
I stay in contact with one of the good doctors that fought for him. He actually told me that my husband was a victim of medical tyranny. He said had my husband
Of
hid
course.
his ivermectin in the ER and was allowed a proper dose steroid, that he'd be with me today.
Of
My,
course.
my dad told me, he said, Ricky, shut up.
But
because
they
you're
told-
making things worse for me.
Well, they told me that they were out for his job.
He knew right away.
And get this one. So when they talked to Marciano afterwards, after the whole fact, time ran out for Ryan because of the attack of Dr. Dawson Sundstrom. And we also had a Dr. Kurebeck who even took away a steroid from Ryan. He couldn't even be allowed a proper dose steroid. So it's not just ivermectin, it's strictly protocol.
Right.
So even the steroid was helping him
Good.
breathe. And the good doctor had
Yeah.
told him, if you take him off of the steroid, you're going to kill Ryan. Shouldn't your loyalties be to the patient? Shouldn't your loyalties be to Stacy and
No,
Ryan?
no. Taking him off the steroid was helping him. Well, putting him, I mean, him being on the steroid was helping.
Yeah.
Taking him off meant that they were going to kill
Yeah,
him.
yeah. He said, if you take him off the steroid, you're going to kill him. And the doctor
No,
did it
you're
anyway.
killing him.
Yeah. And the doctor did. He took Ryan off of the steroid, cold turkey,
And then they killed him.
protecting that protocol. Yeah. And then Ryan started to go downhill pretty fast. And it was just, Ryan just had no rights. I never knew you could not. And they would even lie to me in the hospital and say, we don't allow off-label drugs. Almost all, I think it's 45. I think I read something about 45% of drugs written are off-label.
Off-label, yeah.
So I mean, they just thought I would believe it. They're just saying what they're told to say to people that don't know no better.
Listen, just shut up and eat your aspartame.
Yeah.
Eat your high fructose corn syrup. Eat your saccharin, because the FDA allows all that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the real stuff, no. Whatever they say, and I've said before, you do the opposite. They tell you sit, you jump.
Yeah.
Tell you jump, sit.
And
that's how it is.
And I know, as we were even talking about justice, I don't know if anyone's heard about this, but June 2nd, there is a story in Wisconsin. They're the first ones to go to trial. They just happen to mess with the wrong family. It's a Christian family. The daughter had Down syndrome. She was high functioning with Down syndrome, 19 years old. And the hospital used a reason to kick the dad out as her guardian.
When was this? During
During all that, because I think they were Grace died before Ryan,
So
but
she-
around the same time. It's close together.
So she had the so-called coronavirus.
And supposedly, yes.
So, yeah.
Well-
So she probably had the flu.
So Dad was there, and Dad knew that Grace could breathe on her own, and they were pushing for Remdesivir. He said no to it, wouldn't allow it. Well, because she needed a legal guardian, she could have a person being her advocate there the whole time. So they refused Remdesivir, so she didn't get it. So this is already taken off the hospital. Then too, they wanted to ventilate Grace, and he's like, why would we ventilate her? Her oxygen's in the 90s. She had her face mask off. She was eating, and they said that her oxygen was dropping according to their monitor. So he brought in a CVS reader, and he put it on her finger, and he seen her oxygen was in the 90s. And so he's like, well, which one is right, my $50 reader or your machines? The nurse said, well, sometimes our leads get sweaty. He's like, so you're going to intubate my daughter off of something that has a false reading? She looked at him and said, just be thankful you caught this. So, I mean,
Boy, this arrogance, right? It's contagious in these hospitals.
yeah. So then, when they found a reason to kick Dad out, they let the sister stay. So now her older sister is with Grace. A nurse came in and injected Grace with lorazepam, Presidex, and morphine 3 minutes apart. She's on no breathing assistance. When you say it to any medical personnel, their
Yes,
first
that-
words is she quit breathing.
Yes, she did.
And so that's a heavy sedative. So there's no way you can breathe on your own with that kind of drugs. And then to make it worse, the doctor put DNR in her paperwork without the parent's knowledge or consent right after that injection was done. And so then the sister feels Grace getting colder, sees her oxygen dropping. She starts yelling to the nurses, come save our daughter. There's something wrong with our
So
daughter.
they're killing her because the drugs they're giving her.
Yep, they've euthanized her
Of course.
like an animal.
Yeah.
And so
Euthanized, right.
the security came up to prevent the nurses from entering. They would not let the nurses go in to save her. The nurses threw her a blanket and said, this is part of the process. We're sorry. Nobody would stop Grace from dying. Her parents watched on FaceTime while their 19-year-old Down syndrome daughter was being euthanized. And they're
Right.
begging for the staff to save them, saying, she's not a DNR. She's not a DNR. Come save our daughter. No one would allow them to come in and save her. She died in her sister's arms while her parents had to watch on FaceTime, begging healthcare to save somebody's life.
Everyone involved should
You
be
go in
charged with
exactly for murder, right? Manslaughter for
And
sure.
she's labeled a COVID death. A COVID death. That was
Oh,
a COVID death.
right.
So-
COVID, yeah, right.
They
Another
were living
$30,000.
somebody's
Cha-ching.
on that DNR that do not resuscitate. They
And the doctor did it.
they fought me tooth and nail about using that with my dad
Yeah.
when I
They
had
pushed that really strong.
They're like, well, why? It's our procedure. I'm like, no, he does not want it.
Yeah.
It's his word. He says he don't want it. He want. Well, you're, da da da. I'm like, no.
Yeah. They
How
did
long
it.
ago was that with your
I was
dad?
back in 22.
That was right around this time.
Yeah.
That was the scariest time
He got the
To go
two
in
shot-
there.
He got 2 shots
in the
though.
hospital.
Yeah, supposedly flu shots. They were supposed.
I was never scared of.
Within 6 months, he had 2 strokes.
Oh, wow.
And it's been 4 years now.
Well, I'm
3
hearing now
years.
they're putting the mRNA technology in all the shots.
Yeah.
Like, so
But
they're
what-
putting it in the flu
But
shots
Yeah.
too.
what people
Yeah.
need to people need to understand,
Don't take it
mRNA is also not a bad thing. It can be used for good to directly inject medicine to the actual.
But
thing.
what they created,
they
what they
used
created
good
is
technology
insane.
for bad is what they did with the mRNA.
well, look, there's a reason why cancer has tripled since then. There's a reason why myocarditis and all these little kids, like I said last time on the show, 38,000 kids died from that vaccine.
Yeah.
It's not even a vaccine. It's DNA therapy,
Shot,
whatever the hell.
yeah.
And they're pushing it. They're euthanizing. They want to euthanize every you. That I'm preaching to the
The
choir.
more you
over
Yeah.
get, the more shots you get, the more it gets together and fills out the procedure of killing you. You
Yeah.
know, what is
It
it? The
compromises.
trichomes or something, or the
the
I forget what it's called.
for what now?
It connects to your DNA.
Oh yeah,
And
the spike proteins.
Yes,
It's just
spike protein. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
good thing spike proteins. Yeah,
And
connects to your DNA and it just connects it
it,
all.
it,
and
it
just,
compromises your immune system.
Yeah.
I never will take and I'm not just talking about the corona vaccine, the H1N1 or whatever the hell. There's so many different names. I'm confusing myself. Even the regular vaccine, I won't take. No, just the flu, the flu shot.
Mhm.
No, it does. Most people I know who've taken it get sick. Every year they take it, they keep getting sick. Their immune system is compromised. There's no way. I mean, and it just no. With what I'm hearing and what I've seen, how can you trust them?
can't.
That's very true.
It's disgusting to
Yeah.
think of. Really is.
I had a gallbladder attack after everything happened with my husband, and I was terrified to go to the hospital. I looked at my mom, who was like trying to pick me up to take me there, and I'm like, I can't go. I can't. I just like froze up in the car and said, you would have to be prepared that you take me there. I might not come back. You know, because I mean, my rights are not going to be mine.
I was
I don't
scared.
even want to go to a regular doctor. And
I know,
Yeah.
because they want to push something on you. They're the new drug dealer.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a cold sore. Here you go. Or they want to push whatever it is. Just because that's how they get kickbacks. They get bonuses. That's got to change. It should be. I don't know which
Well-
country it is. Japan. I don't know, but there's a country out there, and I can't remember where I read it, where the doctor will get more bonuses if their patients are healthier.
probably Japan. I would have to.
Japan.
I'd have to agree on that.
Oh,
Imagine that concept.
But yeah, here it's the opposite. Here it's the opposite. They
Yeah.
get more kickbacks to get people addicted
Or
to more medication.
India would be another one.
What's that?
India.
Maybe. I don't know. But, not our country. No, not our country. Definitely not. And one thing I wanted to say, man, I forgot about. When I was in a car accident in 22, it'll be 3 years this November. I remember just the way the whole system is. How many doctors came in my room? Hello, how are you? My name's Dr. Gupta. How many doctors came in just to collect? I mean, I'm talking 10 a day. Cha-ching. Every time they walked in the door, they got a kickback. They got money. I had stitches on my head For 2 months, nobody took off. You doctors come in here just to get money, but nobody can. Well, we can't touch that. Why not? Because you got to go find the person who put it. I had to go to the ER to find the ER doctor who put the stitches in my head. I had to go to my practitioner. She had to do it. I waited like a month and a half to get stitches out of my head. They'd still be in there probably if my doctor didn't say anything. She goes, you still have. I'm like, what are you talking about? They didn't take them out.
I think it's helped you.
That's I don't know, but I mean that tells you how screwed up our medical system is. And I'm so glad you came to visit us. If you have anything else to elaborate on, you can.
Yeah.
How long have we've been? It's been. Has it been an hour? I usually give asshole of the week, but we had a whole hour full of assholes.
Got a few of them, yeah.
Right. Oh my goodness! And that
That's a
doctor.
horrible story.
Gosh.
I know
Don,
it is
Dr.
horrible.
Sundstrom,
But
Kubrick.
I want our
Yeah.
two listeners out there to
To
put
make them famous.
no, to push this, and if to go on your Facebook,
Yep, Ryan's Fight for Truth.
Ryan's Fight for Truth. I've watched a little bit of it.
And my
I've seen it a
YouTube
few
channel
times.
is the number 4. Like, I think Facebook is spelt out Ryan's Fight for
So
Truth.
you do have Facebook.
And
too.
then YouTube has with the number 4, Ryan's Fight with the number 4
Now-
Truth.
Now, do you have a GoFundMe or I don't know?
I have a givesendgo.com/Ryan's Fight.
Okay.
And that has helped me along the way because I do a lot of traveling to speak out. I'm actually going to go to on June 2nd, that story of Grace Shara, they have finally made it to a trial by jury. So when I said they mess with the wrong family, because
The one in Wisconsin.
yep, Dad owns several businesses, so he has the
So he's
funds
got
to
money.
fight it. So that's
Good to
where
hear.
a lot of us could not do med-mal.
See, that's sad.
Med-mal is set up to really, if you find an attorney on contingency, they're going to try to make a settlement because they don't want to go before the peers and then take a chance of losing everything.
Losing everything.
So they're going to try to make a settlement. Things that come with a settlement is also gag order. So they won't allow anything to be talked about outside the courtroom. And
That's
so
usually
then
the
you're
case.
being paying you off for your silence. And then that doesn't do anything.
Right.
These doctors will continue to go out and do it. Their insurance will flip the bill. So if you can get to go to a jury, they can't put a gag order. It'll become public record, win or lose. So this dad has paid hundreds of thousands to get to where he's at now, but
So they're winning
he
their
doesn't
case.
want the money. He just wants justice for his
Absolutely,
daughter,
of course.
and he wants to open the doors for other people. So
What's this called? This case called?
the Grace Shara case.
The
That's
Grace-
SCHARA.
And that's the one
Shara
in
case.
Wisconsin. you were
Yep,
talking
their
about.
website is ouramazinggrace.net.
And the protocol killed their daughter.
Yes.
Their daughter, just like thousands.
Yeah.
I bet
Oh.
hundreds of
Oh,
thousands.
yeah.
The
Absolutely.
hospital tried to say it was a moot point that they put an illegal DNR in place because Grace is dead.
What? I didn't even understand that.
Yeah, that was
Speak
their
English,
argument.
because I
It's
used to
a
speak.
moot
Albanian.
point.
It's a
I
moot
mean,
point because Grace is dead that they put a DNR order against parents' knowledge
Well,
or
if you wouldn't
consent.
have killed her, it wouldn't have been a moot point to begin
Right.
with, correct?
Yeah,
Right.
it was literally like being like, oh, it's a moot point that the convicted felon shot somebody
Right.
because the victim is dead.
I got to remember that next time I kill someone.
Convicted felons,
Right.
they can have guns now because as long as someone dies.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's dead. I'm innocent. Trust me.
Wow.
Literally, that's the world that we're in now.
Yeah,
It's like-
exactly.
well, thankfully the judge didn't let that happen, and they fought to have it not be no gag order. They did try to put a gag order on them, but the judge has so far been on the side of the victims. So now they will have a trial by jury. They're selecting their jury on June 2nd.
Nice.
So
That's
I'm
good. So it's a
I'm
win.
traveling to Wisconsin for their trial.
Is
Good.
there a lawsuit here in Michigan?
We've had some some attorneys taking on some fights here in Michigan. We have one really bad attorney, one real bad attorney that kind of ruined it for a lot of people.
Was he paid off or was he just stupid?
That's, I guess, still kind of up in the air. I have my opinions on. A lot of us
It's-
have our opinions on this, but
it's one or the other.
opinions so far. But he did a really bad job. We'll just say that for sure. Was it intentional?
Right. You
That's
don't
up
know.
for debate. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we in Michigan there are actually I've been talking to also where I've got a short. I've been talking to a criminal law attorney as well. So there is 7 states that filed by this criminal. There was Veer's Law Group. Rachel Rodriguez is her name. She has been taking in stories of victims.
Where's she from?
I believe she's out of Florida, but I think Veer's Law takes on like all over, and so they've been helping to contact state prosecutors in 7 states, asking for them to open a criminal investigation, everything from top down, from Fauci all the way down to the administrators of those hospitals that were practicing medicine.
And Veers is the vaccination, what's it
Oh
called?
no, I'm not. It's Veer's Law Firm. Is the name of there?
Okay,
So yeah,
okay.
you're thinking of Veers. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about.
But yeah, no, it's I think it was Veer's Law Firm. I'm pretty sure that's the name of that one. Yeah, pretty sure. And so they're taking
So there is a grassroots movement.
there are things happening. So there's also another group called Former Feds Group. They're formerfedsgroup.org.
From the government, former people.
Yeah,
that-
it sounds scary.
Whistleblowers. Whistleblowers.
Yeah.
Right, it is. It's actually it's a non-profit group that started. There's an attorney in New Jersey. He was a federal. I think he said he was a federal prosecutor. I think that's how it came about. And he then decided to have this group, a non-profit group, to help fight for different causes. And so it's kind of ran by an attorney, and then also a lot of volunteer work. Everything is volunteer work. A lot
As
of
long-
us widows volunteering our time.
You got to make sure about these .org, the organizations, that they're not like George Soros funded
Yeah.
or funded by
I know, if it's
another
like-
entity. You know what I'm saying?
Got 14 LLCs.
Yeah, right. Because those could kind of derail.
Right.
Like I've talked about before on our show, a lot of the grassroots movement are good in the beginning, like the Tea Party movement was the Ron Paul movement. Then it got railroaded by the establishment Republicans back in the day. And I remember the Occupy movement was a good movement, but
Yeah.
it got railroaded by. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to watch out
Oh yeah, always.
that a lot of these organizations don't get railroaded by
A lot more
crooked
people-
money.
Yeah, there's a lot more people stepping up. Huh?
Good. Yeah, that's great,
Sure.
man.
That's for sure.
That's good. That's good. Right. And
We-
definitely, man, you want to keep up Ryan's fight, keep up his memory,
Yeah.
and fight back, because that's what this show is about. I'm totally against the system. I don't trust the government. I don't trust a lot of things. Maybe that's just my nature, but I mean, when I look into things, the rabbit hole gets deep, man.
Yeah.
The rabbit hole gets deep.
It's huge.
I've actually been making like packets for everything that's like criminal evidence, down to laws being broken, battery, being that he's like a medical kidnapping. I mean, that they're even investigating parts of treason. Just because
for who?
for this criminal law attorney and things that they're seeking to look into. And so I know that the attorneys that I was talking to even shared my story with a state prosecutor in Pennsylvania. And her comment was, after hearing Ryan's story and then the evidence that I have, because I have a lot of hidden camera footage from inside the hospital.
Oh, really?
And so, yeah. Oh, yeah. So I was very smart in documenting and also looking up Michigan laws. I found we were a one-party state, how that worked, and I would have done it either way, honestly. But I just would have known to be more cautious with what I had. But I went and I filmed everything, and
Well, you're really going to be on that no-fly list. With
I
me.
am. I raised a lot of enemies. I didn't Epstein myself, if anything happens. But yeah, I absolutely I did have a lot of hidden camera footage, and so
Good
then
for you.
the attorneys told my story to the prosecutor in Pennsylvania, and she said, "You find me a story like that one in my state of Pennsylvania, I will open up a criminal investigation right
She
away."
said that.
Yeah.
And this investigation's about the protocol in the hospitals.
Yep.
It's happened all over the whole country. Forget about what it did to the third world. They shut down the whole third world. They killed more people, died from the shutdown. More people died from the
absolutely.
protocol
Yeah.
than the actual virus.
I think the attorney said something like they figured it was about a 20% death rate for home deaths. 20% out of all of these deaths. We're having millions of people that died,
No, what do you mean from home?
died home of COVID, like they weren't in a
Oh,
hospital.
they didn't actually
So,
go
like,
home.
yeah,
Right.
because a lot of times the hospitals sent people away, like elderly away, and they're
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
bad. They're
yeah.
like, go home and come back if it gets worse. Well, there was a certain percentage of people that died at home sick, being untreated. But the vast majority of all these people that went into a hospital or a nursing home, given Remdesivir, put on a ventilator, wait for death. I mean, they literally they put basically everybody on hospice. Everybody was on hospice, every single person. Well, they're telling you that they're treating it.
Wow, that's a way of putting it. I've never heard that.
Yeah, they actually.
right.
Well, they even.
That's what they
called
do to
them-
hospice patients.
We didn't even know it, so we saw it in the medical records that they actually called palliative care before Ryan was even put on that and ventilator.
Now,
They were
what's
like
palliative care?
End of life.
Now, what's
Palliative care is
palliative
hospice, basically
It's
hospice.
Okay.
And people have
I've
got to
never
be
heard of
really careful because a lot of people don't know it unless they hear the word hospice. And they'll say they also have another term.
You're
that they
digging your
use.
grave once you get to that point.
Yeah, there's another one. I forgot what they call the other one. It's something else kind of care, comfort care maybe.
Yeah.
And then so people think, oh, I want my loved one
that's
to be comforted.
it's
Yeah.
like the Patriot Act.
They want comfort care. I want them on comfort
It's
care.
like the Patriot Act. Oh, it's patriotic.
Yeah.
No, not really. Comfort care sounds like an enema. Right.
So they literally people didn't know what sometimes they were consenting to. They didn't understand that they're actually trying to prepare them to die.
Yeah.
And leaving the family thinking that they're fighting for them.
Right.
So yeah, it's so scary.
This is. I mean, it's
But if
ridiculous.
since there are groups, and I my joke to a lot of people I tease with them because it's called former feds group. I always say if
Sure.
it goes south and it goes bad and we find out there was anything nefarious, we'll all say, "Damn it, did we not know not to trust anyone than former federal agent?"
I'm going to
Miss that red flag.
I'm going to coin another phrase. It should be called former gangsters. Yeah, that's the same .org I belong to.
But yeah, so far everything seems okay. But they have former feds group. Granted, they still like the attorney that steered a lot of people wrong, but whatever. But we do have the former feds group.
So they're legit.
So far, yeah, we think so.
So
I don't
they're
think they
not
know
like-
so much about the bad attorney, but that's
They don't know about the bed.
They're in or they know or they don't know about it.
Right,
But
exactly.
the
It's
former feds
well,
group's
somebody else cynical in the room. I like that.
always cautious now. I've been burned so bad.
You know what? And that's
I'm
what
cautious of
happens
everybody.
when you get ripped off or
Yeah.
you get hurt, whether it's your heart or your pocketbook or what happened to you.
Yeah.
You don't trust.
Yeah.
And like I was trying to tell my counterpart here last week, I'm like, I don't trust. Why should I trust? Why should I trust the FDA, the CDC? They continuously are
Why?
wrong in their deliberately. Why am I going to trust the government now?
Yeah.
If let's say that there is something real and genuine, you think most people are going to trust it? No, not going to trust it. Why would I? I take my chances at home,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, a
Absolutely.
doctor flat out told me if Ryan would have just either stayed home or had that antibiotic or had his ivermectin and given a proper dose steroid, he'd be with me today.
He'd be alive.
And so
Right.
those two easy
You wouldn't be
things.
sitting here with us.
Yeah.
All right.
And what makes me sick is like literally I could have put him on it because I have I don't know if it's me.
I don't know if it's me or you or somebody else.
Yeah.
CDC. I don't know. Somebody.
Wouldn't be the first time. But yeah, I never knew if I even gave my mom ivermectin when she got sick. Gave her that, and then it kills me because I actually had steroids at home and I could have put Ryan on it. Never even thought about it, but I have an emergency prednisone pack in case my asthma gets bad. And it's like, oh, we really had all that right in our hands and we could have done it, but in hindsight. But
She
he
didn't think
I
he
don't-
was going to go in
No.
and kill them.
No.
No, you could go in and you didn't come out.
no. I thought just being informed was enough, and we would be cautious and know our rights.
Right.
And, yeah,
I mean,
to know we didn't have
thing.
any. Yeah,
It's a scary thing to in this country where now you get sick. You're like, man, I got shot in my leg. Should I go to the doctor or go to the witch doctor down the street and put some alcohol on it or something? That's
I'll
pretty
just put a
scary.
Band-Aid on it. I'll be all right.
Right.
yep.
Remember that? Remember during the Lincoln assassination, when the doctor that helped John Wilkes Booth, your name is Mud.
Mm.
Remember, because he supposedly helped
Yep.
John Wilkes Booth after they shot the president. I think that's what we should call these presidents. These doctors should be called Mud. What they're doing, right? They're not helping us. They're helping the enemy.
Yeah.
The enemy's the corporations and the bureaucrats that control the system. They won't let doctors be doctors.
No.
No.
No, and I actually, the doctor who fought for my husband said exactly that. He said this corruption goes way deeper than just the hospital system. He says these other doctors are cowards.
Right.
He said I became the black sheep of the hospital because they're calling what I did unethical. They were calling what he did unethical to try to save my husband
Unbelievable.
using an off-label medication that has an anti-inflammatory to treat an inflamed lungs. That's unethical. That's like the scripture says, like when we will call what is evil good and what is good evil. Literally right there.
Right.
It's
It's
treason right there, going against your oath.
exactly
Take care of you.
Oh, yeah.
the Hippocratic oath was
First do no harm.
first doctor happened to be Greek.
Mhm.
I don't know what happened to me, but first
We know a lot of things.
Well, nevertheless, though, no. To go back on what you're saying, exactly. It's not only treasonous; it's going against. It's crimes against humanity. That's what it is. When I'm hearing this, it just makes me so mad, and it's so scary how brainwashed we've become. We always talk about North Korea. We got a lot of brainwashing going on in here. We don't have to point our finger to another country. We got a lot of brainwashed people in this country and doctors.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are compromised. A lot of them are blackmailed. I get it.
They've all been raised in the system.
Right. And some of them actually believe in what you're saying. That they believe the bullshit.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man.
The doctor who wrote the script for me for Ivermectin, they went after him. Laura went after his license. He went before the had to go before the
They
medical
actually
board.
okay, kind of
And
like
I went with him. Yeah, I was there, but the good doctor that fought for Ryan was there. All I got out was a short sentence to them. I think there was like 12 people on the board or whatever, and I told him what happened to my husband and how both doctors that I'm looking at that I know were heroes, stepping up to do the right thing. And I said there's nothing wrong with the doctor prescribing an off-label medication. My husband had inflamed lungs. This doctor trusted that this drug was anti-inflammatory, might help him. Because what else are we going to do for him? Just watch him die? You know, and so when I said that, one doctor looked kind of emotional after I got done talking, and he rubbed his eyes, but then they asked for me and the other doctor to leave the call while they went after the poor other one.
I was telling you earlier about my cousin. She gave up her license too.
Yeah.
Because they brought her in front of the board,
Yeah.
FDA and all that, for the medical board, I'm sorry. And she's like, you know what? You guys are too unethical.
Yeah.
I don't want it no more. You can keep it.
Yeah.
That's your doctor.
Walked away.
That's your doctor cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Talk about her. And what.
Well, it's actually my ex-wife's cousin.
But still,
You
I
know,
mean, this kind of
she was behind the scenes during all this COVID, fighting against the vaccines and doing studies and looking into it and all that, and found out how nasty it really was, what was inside them things, of them shots and things like that, and what the repercussions of taking them shots were doing to people.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me prior to COVID even coming out what the new procedures were going to be.
So she was ahead of the game.
By years. And I'm talking, this woman is one of the best people in the world. She's a godly person. She's she's all about love for everybody. You know, she's just a great
And she basically gave up her career because of the corruption.
Yes.
I mean, I don't even want to use that word corruption. It's diabolical, really.
She actually gave up her practice because she wasn't doing things the way they wanted her to do. And she was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm not doing it no more.
Yeah.
You know, and she walked away from it, took a break, and then came back prior to COVID-19, came back to the States and was just living her life, you know, and then that happened, you know, and pretty crazy.
You know, it's funny. I remember watching a show about 15 years ago with Jesse Ventura called Conspiracy Theory. And they had a lady, and they had, he's laughing. How cute. Remember that? No.
Yeah, he was great. It was great.
He had a woman on there who worked for I don't know.
The blonde-haired lady.
Yeah.
The older blonde-haired lady.
And she actually flew out of the country.
Yeah.
This was 2010, and he interviewed her and said, why did you fly out of the country? Because sometime in the near future, they're going to force people to get vaccines.
Yep.
And the protocol is going to kill people.
Yep.
I wish I can watch that again. I remember watching that years ago, and I went back. Somebody online had it about 4 or 5 years ago when all this was happening. I go, yeah. I remember watching that episode.
Do you remember when they attacked him for 9/11?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Back when Jesse was good, he would come out and talk about this stuff. She talked about there was going to be a vaccine that was going to kill people. We're talking 2010, 15 years ago, and talked about how they're going to force people to take this vaccine. And, you know, another thing we have to bring to people's attention, I've done before on the show, is I'm sad at all the people that were forced to take a vaccine that lost their jobs.
Yeah.
in the military, in certain corporations, certain companies, certain institutions. Even the people at Beaumont are forced to take this. They don't even care about their own workers.
Yeah.
So that's the thing you mentioned something
They
about.
can't
This is
even-
going to happen to them. It
Yeah.
already has.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's crazy. I think it was in 2007 is when the actual patent for the COVID-19 vaccine
And that's some.
took effect.
Mhm.
That's when they went and got the patent. for
Back
it.
in 7.
2007, I think it was 7 or 9. I can't exactly. I think it was 2007.
Well, and this came out in 2010. And
Yeah.
I remember he flew somewhere like on one of those small jets, commuter jets or commuter planes to go talk to her. She said, "I won't go back to the country because it's totally changed." Back then, she knew this was going to happen, and now they're going to shut everything down and force
remember
people to
that
get
show.
vaccinated, and it happened. She said sometime in the near future, it happened. 15 years later.
Mhm.
And she's living testament of this is real crap,
Mhm.
People might listen to us and laugh and go, "These guys are crazy. This stuff ain't, it's real."
It's real.
Oh, it's even more.
It's
trust
in
me,
your
we're
face.
just
Over your
scratching,
eyes.
and we're scratching the surface.
Absolutely.
And then it says, how do we even get justice for what's happened with this fast rollout? And a lot of people thought, when you get Trump and RFK in office, they would start to flip things and expose this.
Takes a minute.
But I'm praying, because so far Trump hasn't exposed anything on the whole COVID shot. He still calls himself the father of the vaccine, and then gave a lot of money to Moderna recently.
Exactly.
But you
And
gotta look into the back aspects of that. I'm a believer of the executive orders that were signed prior to him leaving in 2020. He signed executive orders to go after them companies. And me personally, I think them companies have been submitted and they are being reran by our new people. You know what
the
I'm
new
saying?
administration.
Yeah, our new administration. I think
He's-
they're using them for good instead of bad. They've been flipped.
I'm
My personal opinion, because there's things that are going on behind the scenes that you have to go to back research to
Mhm.
really get into to see. And he's coming out with the new COVID report. He's coming out with where the Wuhan
Mhm.
really came.
Yeah.
Wait till people find out it wasn't in China. It
Yeah.
was actually in Ukraine. That
there were a lot of labs in Ukraine.
China, Ukraine is where it was
Well,
actually designed. They're
there-
saying
there
it's
were-
coming out in all these reports.
There were a lot of labs in Ukraine.
Yes,
That's probably
biolabs.
true. But you said he gave money to who?
Moderna to
Okay,
do
yeah.
this.
Well, that's-
I'm very cynical. Like I'm going to keep repeating. Like everybody knows that. So I'm a political atheist. I don't
Mhm.
believe in either party.
Mhm.
But I get what he's saying. I definitely understand what you're saying. I even had a show about him. Is he being compromised? And you were on here with Cass.
Mhm.
And I'd like to believe in him. Although this administration, or I should say, Bobby Kennedy Jr. has talked about things that no other administration has talked about. I
Yeah.
give them that. They're exposing more stuff. They're bringing awareness. That's a step in the right direction.
When he comes out and is telling you that the shots cause autism, I
Right.
mean,
Yeah,
you're going-
exactly.
You're going in huge steps. there.
Exactly. I agree with that. But I listen to what you say too.
Yeah.
Trump is one of those things. One minute I'm like, yeah. The next minute I'm like, I don't know. Is this the
Yeah.
same old shit or what? But then
Exactly.
again,
what's
what
it
you
making
say,
you do? It's making you think and talk, right?
but you're
Yeah.
right too. Yeah. Who would have thought 10 years ago that we're going to have an administration that's going to come out and say, hey, these vaccines suck.
Right.
They're causing autism.
Right.
I agree with that.
Right.
I mean-
and then turn around and start telling, well, we're going to ban red dye 40 and we're banning.
And that's a step in the right direction.
And then you got states that are putting bills in that are banning dyes to be put into their food to be allowed into their states.
Right, right.
And then you have Missouri
Banning the whole
suing.
COVID shot, too.
Yeah.
There you go.
You
Right.
have, you have Missouri suing
There you go.
China
So there you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
over
right.
the COVID.
But I understand what you're saying. I look
Yeah.
at the other side too. But then again, you got a point
Right.
also.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I
And
agree
it's
with
and
you
it's a
on
step
that.
in the right direction that
Yeah.
they're starting to talk about. Finally, somebody in
Yeah.
the administration is saying that, hey, is there a link between the vaccines and autism?
Mhm.
I believe so.
So what I see is they're taking the devil and they're putting them out on display now. All right. This is what used to hide behind the scenes. Now we're going to put them in the front of the
Exposed.
scene. We're exposing, but we're going to still use their name and face, but it's actually in good terms. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Going to use it for good instead of the evil that they were doing. So we can only hope.
I know. I pray that.
You know, I do too.
I
pray on
need
it
Trump
too.
to do something, get us some, remove the statute of limitations for all the victims that couldn't get
Well,
anything.
Yes.
And I
like
need a
Trump.
prop back removed
And-
so we
and-
never do this again.
And you know what? I believe a lot of those people who've lost their jobs should either get some kind of money or get their job back.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of innocent people that did not want to get the vaccine that were forced to get it. And
Look what happened
there should be
when they
lawsuits for. I think
forced
there
all them
was.
shots, when they were forcing the shots, and then you had all them pilots all of a sudden that were
Yeah.
having heart attacks in midair and things like, and they can't pass tested. Now they got blood clots and things like that. I mean,
They
I've
covered,
lost
Tony
several
and I
people.
talked
they
about
covered that up. pretty
Tony
good,
and I
didn't they?
talked about all the coroners and stuff, finding
Mhm.
all. The,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Tony sent me a lot of good
Oh, my
info, and Cass did too.
gracious, yeah.
Right. I mean, but
Absolutely.
hey, man, we want to bring awareness, and that's what we're here for, to expose a lot of this crap that the mainstream legacy media will not. You know, and you're right, Rick. A lot of the autopsies were like these, you know, they were like, we've never seen stuff like this before.
Mhm.
Blood clots the size
Never.
of
No.
I-75.
Oh, and when you speak of autopsies, this is how deep the corruption goes. So I paid for an autopsy for Ryan. I had
did a
Warner
private.
Spritz, or how do you say his name? He's the Wayne County. He was the Wayne County coroner's. And so
Wayne
he's a-
County, no,
Well, yeah.
there's no corruption there. Please,
Well,
come on. I'm
I
going to pull you
guess-
off air and you keep talking lies.
So this pathologist did famous cases like the O.J. Simpson.
Oh.
He did the Kennedy family, so well known. And I actually paid extra for a toxicology report to be done on Ryan, and they purposely embalmed him first before doing
That
that.
sounds like the Kennedy one. There was no autopsy with
We're
Kennedy.
not gonna
That's
hide
tampering
nothing.
with evidence. That's
Right.
illegal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So who paid them off?
Yeah, we're
Who
not
guaranteed their immunity?
Exactly. But you know, with Kennedy, there was no autopsy. They took
Yeah.
the body.
I heard that, yeah.
They took the body
You
because
know-
the autopsy would have showed that there was more than one shooter.
You know, they never found his brain.
Isn't that something? Right.
His brain was never
Wow.
delivered.
Why?
Was never with the body.
Well, I know Dean don't have it.
It's crazy. And
Yeah.
the coroner even reported, he was like, well, where's the brain at? Well, I'm supposed, you know, and they were supposed to be working on him as the plane was flying back to DC.
You know, there's we're going off topic a little here, but you know, because it's all kind of all linked together
It is.
because it's corruption.
Oh, it is.
So
Total
there's a,
corruption.
so there's a good documentary, and I usually don't like Netflix, but they did kind of because they're mainstream. But they did kind of have a good documentary called The Octopus Murders. Has anybody seen that? You got to look into that. That really is so crazy. And there's a part in that where, because I could talk about that, but I don't want to get too much into that. There's a part in that where there's a guy, he's called, you know what they're called, ghosts, right? They work for the agency. They don't have social security numbers.
Yeah.
They don't have identification cards. They don't really exist.
Mhm.
So he works for the agency. He could be a hitman.
Ghost protocol.
This guy called another guy into the room because he was investigating something big. He sat down and goes, you know that stuff with Kennedy you watch on TV? That's not real. That's not the real footage. And he showed the real footage, and he showed the real shooter and stuff. But
Front
it's just
seat.
crazy.
The front
Yeah,
seat.
exactly. And but if you watch that documentary,
Mhm.
Mhm.
the octopus murders, it's interesting.
It's crazy.
And
Wow.
so yeah, I mean, but it kind of
Yeah.
intertwines with what
Right.
we're saying because there's always a higher power,
Yep.
right?
That's like the movie Black Waters. I think it's called Black Waters or Dark Waters. Black Waters or Dark Waters? One of those two, but it's really good. It's based off of Teflon, the lawsuit with Teflon. Such a good movie.
Oh,
it's-
That'll
yeah,
show the same thing.
I
It's
think
like
it's
higher
Dark
up,
Waters,
it's
yeah.
money and corruption
Oh,
and
and
paying
it's-
people
and it-
off for silence.
And it always seems like it's the same people involved.
Yep.
It always seems like it's the same institutions with the same fraction of the government or something.
Is that
I
the
think it's
one?
called Dark Waters.
Yeah, is that the small town in like
Ohio
Pennsylvania?
or something,
There you go. Yeah.
And they were
yeah.
all getting their teeth were falling out. here.
Yep.
And they noticed their cows were all dropping dead if they drank water from this like certain like pond. And
What part of Ohio was that?
It was on the Pennsylvania border, if I
Yeah, I
remember.
think
Okay, so it's
so.
east side of Ohio.
Yeah.
and it was
By
the
Hawken Hills, probably.
maybe have
Yeah,
them.
I ain't ever going there.
And it was a Teflon dumping all their chemicals into like a reservoir going into the water.
Wow.
And then it was making kids were drinking water at home and their teeth were falling out. And the people that worked in the plant were getting cancer. And so then it became, yeah. Well,
And it was called what? That sounds like
Dark Waters.
So Dark Waters and Octopus Murders. Something people should watch.
It is a good movie.
It is a very good one. It really makes you see the corruption.
Oh, jeez.
And how the judicial system was trying to like break that attorney, taking every bit of money he had, so he couldn't fight it because he was like a smaller law firm.
Yeah.
No one else was backing him up, and this attorney who actually defended corporations for a living. These local folk of Ohio went to him, begging him for answers like, hey, there's something wrong. Everybody's getting sick in our town and we're not getting answers. And I don't know how that it just kind of pulled at his heartstrings and he took up the fight. So he literally was being like threatened from his own job. Like, you need to back off from this because we defend corporations for a living. And he's branching off to go after one.
That's pretty bad. That tells you how bad that is.
I mean, there's a scene where he went to go start his car in the parking garage. And for a moment, he was like, do I want to turn this key? You know, just waiting for it to.
That's crazy.
No.
So
Yeah, that's good movie.
I mean, it's crazy, but I'm definitely glad you came on here. I mean, it's probably been our best show yet, and
Nice.
it was a privilege to have you
Absolutely.
on here.
We're sorry. to hear this.
Yeah, I'm
I could do
very
this all
sorry.
the time. I would love
I'm
this.
just saying, well, hey man, you know where we're at, and
It's
anytime.
like my college roots here, so it feels like.
And what I'm saying, hey, you know where we're at, and anytime you want to come by, and definitely you got to keep us in touch with what's going on, because we're gonna continue doing what we're doing, whatever it is. We'll
Yeah.
find out someday.
Have you back on
Right.
and tell us what's going
But-
on.
But yeah, and definitely, you gotta definitely come back on and let us know. And I'll tell you, it was a privilege having you, and you too, Rick.
So glad to
Definitely.
be here.
And we'll be on next week. I just want to thank everybody for joining us, and thank you again. This is 2 Deans and No Waiting, and we'll be back next week with another show. Thank you very much.